This is Abe Freetanzer from Awards Watch, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Jake Lacy about The White Lotus. How are you, Jake?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. It's great to talk to you again. We spoke last year while the show was still running. Is it nice to be able to think about this now? It's been almost a year since the show was on, right?
Yeah, it was nice. I went back and watched a couple of because I saw it when it came out because I was excited to see how it all came together. And then, yeah, it's been really nice to like revisit it and have some time to think about it. And yeah, it's great.
Are you surprised by how people have reacted to Shane as a character?
Uh, I'm not. I'm barely on Instagram and I'm not on Twitter, so I was not aware of anything kind of in that sphere. Um, but I will say the face-to-face interactions have been fun as people are like, "Oh, you were such a dick." And I'm like, "It's great to meet you, man." You know, uh, but I'm thrilled that people are like that they liked it. You know.
Do you think there are people who either don't think that the show is satire or who see Shane as like a hero standing up for the mistreated hotel guest?
Um, I would have to think I would hope they know it's satire. I would hope that they have picked up on it.
What's your conclusion? Do you think that ultimately he's a good guy?
Well, I think there's a pretty severe chasm between like how he sees himself and maybe how the rest of us see him. So like Shane thinks he's a very good guy. Like um, he's the victim here. You know, um, from out here, I don't know that that's true, but Shane, I don't think looks back on that experience and thinks like, I could have handled that differently. He's like, you screwed this all up, like I've been done wrong.
Rewatching the show, were there any scenes or storylines that really stood out to you as either memorable or different than you remembered them?
Uh, I think no. I mean, I was so invested kind of in the like totality of the show when because we were like in a bubble and couldn't leave and none of our family were there and all that. It's like I was like poring over every element of those scripts and then really was just like thrilled to see Mike's choices in the edit and then the editor's work on this is remarkable. And so I don't think there was anything new where I sort of went like, oh, right, that piece, as much as I don't know. We filmed in kind of silos of like Alex and I filmed a lot together, and then the Mossbachers filmed a lot together, and so it really was like I got the experience of everybody else viewing it in a way because I hadn't been around to get to see a lot of that stuff. Like I was just quarantined in my room waiting to film, so I kind of got to go back and watch it again and be like, oh man, Steve is awesome in this. You know what I mean? Like to get to kind of champion, I don't know, friends and castmates in that way, I think.
Are there any characters you wish Shane had had the chance to share scenes with?
Yeah, I honestly, yes, like Mark. I wish that like that Steve and I had like uh just like classic Mike White where like two people think they're on the same page and then you figure out like, oh, we're way off. I think it would have been fun to see those two be like, this guy's all right, and then realize like, what's your problem? Like that that sort of recalibrating of like how you see a person. Um, I think that would have been a lot of fun. Or also with Fred, to like again to be like, oh, this kid's pretty cool, and to be like, what did he just say to me? Like that, I that would have been fun.
I do want to mention a spoiler warning here, though I'm not sure why somebody who hasn't watched The White Lotus this much after it aired is watching right now.
I feel like I should check. I should look at this and then I'll go see what he's talking about.
Were you pleased with the way that Shane's arc ended in that final episode?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd only read the first. We only had the first script available to us before we all landed in Hawaii, and then the scripts were put in these binders when we arrived there, and had, I think, 5 or 7 days of quarantining. And so I got to like sit alone and read these scripts day in and day out for a week, and got to that final, to both like killing Armand and then also going to the airport and Rachel coming back and then like reuniting. And I've said this a couple times, but I was like fist pumping alone in my hotel room, being like, oh yes, like we're gonna do this. This is so cool. So yes, I was thrilled to get to be a murderer, and just the way, like, to see the build toward that final thing. You know, like it's one thing to go like, oh, this will be really technically fulfilling to like film this scene, but creatively to see like, oh, this is how Mike is building this kind of swirl, this perfect storm toward an end that's both surprising and inevitable. And then really this kind of heartbreaking like reunion at the airport that Shane thinks is he's going to be saved. You know, Rachel came back and everything's okay. And for Rachel, I don't know that she has that same outlook, and I don't think the audience has, you know, either of those perspectives. But yeah, I loved it.
I also do think that Shane is part of two of the scenes that don't feature Jennifer Coolidge that I feel like were discussed most, that I saw, you know, on social media. One of them is the one where he walks in on the rimming.
Right. Yes.
And the other one is, you know, that murder scene, but more specifically, what was in the suitcase. And so I feel like both of those, the discussion is about, you know, what was real, what was a prop, and all that. I don't know if I have a question to ask you. I just want to mention that.
Well, as Murray has described it, he was like, there was a lot of discussion and work with a physical prop in the suitcase and some excellent digital post work, but he was like, that's my body holding myself up in that squat. There wasn't like a clear, you know, green chair that then we like wiped in post or something. Like he is very much there holding a wall sit for some time. But he was like, somebody asked him like, did you really poop in that? He was like, no, what? Like, what do you think the movie business is? Like, that's horrific.
Yeah. How does it feel to be nominated alongside both Murray and Steve?
I mean, I'm like incredibly surprised and genuinely like touched to be nominated. It really was not something I saw coming, and I'm just like taken aback and thrilled, and thrilled to be like doing it with them. You know, like as much as I'm like honored and excited and all that, it's like in equal measure, I can't wait to be there and like see the cast and get to celebrate together, and just for being, you know, as Steve said, like invited to the dance. You know, like that's the ride, you know. So I'm thrilled. I'm just thrilled. And those guys are wonderful actors, but also like fantastic people. Like it was such a gift creatively, but also like personally to get to be a part of this and to work with those guys. And yeah, I love them.
Yeah, I expected the show to do pretty well at the Emmys, but I didn't quite expect the, you know, strong embrace of so much of the cast. And of course, I keep thinking about the fact that Brittany and Fred are the only two who aren't nominated, which is too bad because it's, you know, such a terrific ensemble.
Yeah, it really is like, you know, I don't know what goes into how people think or vote or perceive things. And you know, all I know is like, I certainly don't feel like I can just take credit for being nominated. You know what I mean? Like it's such a group effort, like in every way, for any performance to resonate or click for people or whatever it is, you know. And like on the flip side, like it also there, you know, I just hope that those guys aren't like, oh, are we not up to it? Like, you know, like, is this some representation of our work here? Because I think they're both fantastic in the show. So I'm thrilled that like the show's nominated as a group, because I do feel like it truly is like an ensemble show, you know? Yeah.
At what point did you find out that the show would be coming back for a second season?
I think we had to go back between wrapping in like late December. We went back in I think February to finish some scenes and to add a couple of scenes. And I think somewhere between, you know, those two chunks, HBO was excited about what they were seeing, and obviously excited enough to like put money into all of us going back to Hawaii for 8 days or something to like finish up. And I think that's when Mike was like, "We're gonna do another year of this, you know, but in its own, you know, essentially at another White Lotus location, you know." And you know, like Mike is brilliant and also has nothing left to prove. So I feel like if HBO had gone to him and been like, "Do you want to do it again?" and he didn't have more to say or more to offer or new ideas or something, I feel like he would have been like, "No." You know, like I'd love to do something else for you, but like I'm kind of tapped on what this is. And so I'm thrilled to see whatever it is that they've come up with for season 2, because he's incredible and that cast looks amazing. And yeah, I just wish him nothing but the best with it.
Would you have any interest in returning if the opportunity presented itself, or do you feel like we've seen? Well, I guess that, and also, do you feel like we've seen enough of Shane and he's sort of completed his arc?
Well, I love Shane. So, you know, so like I don't feel like you can have too much Shane. I mean, you could have too much Shane, but I would love to come back. I wanted him to be in. I wanted like to be in season 2, but just like deep background, and you just see like Shane and Kitty like, you know, chewing out some guy at the valet stand or something, where like just in like a passing shot to go like you have to pause it and be like, is he out here? Like, wow. That or Mike had texted me at one point when they were filming, and he's like, "I have this idea." He's sort of like the kind of Richard Linklater style, where he's like, it would be you and Alex on a yacht with like another waspy couple, and just having like kind of banal conversation for like 30 minutes, and you think it's going to arrive at something, or there will be some reveal or a connection you don't know, and then that's it. There is none of that. It's just like the banality of really rich people on a boat, and I think it's brilliant. So we've not filmed that, but I hope to. I hope we get the chance to.
I'll keep an eye out when season 2 premieres. You had mentioned a very different follower project when we spoke last, and I'm wondering and hoping that that's still alive. That's Space with Krista Rodriguez.
Oh, yes, we did shoot that. TBS took their time to decide not to make any more of that, which was disappointing, because I think Hillary Winston and Connor Welsh and, you know, the whole crew who like put that together, and then Krista, and like it's a wonderful group of people. We had a great time making it, and you know, I don't know. You never know on this end like what the real decision came down to, but we were like on the fence for quite some time as to whether that was going to roll or not, but didn't happen.
That's too bad. I know we also lamented the short lifespan of High Fidelity last time we spoke.
Oh man, that's another one that I just can't. Well, you know, I can't understand it, but probably because I literally do not have the information that they looked at and went like, no. You know what I mean? Like that just is not my world. Like it always just comes down to money. So at some point you go, no matter how much critical appreciation there is, or sort of like a very engaged fan base, if they aren't getting enough eyes on it, they just don't keep it around. But that's another, I mean, you know, in my, I'm not old, but like earlier on in my career, I had a lot more attachment to the potential, or the it could be that this thing could turn into that, and inevitably like would find some success in that line of thinking, and a lot of disappointment in that line of thinking. And so it just takes a while to go like, what I'm doing now is great and I love it, and then we'll see what happens next, because that's kind of all there is, particularly in the grand scheme, but really like in this business. So I try to just kind of stay where I am and go like, this is great, and then we'll figure out what's next, instead of going like, if we get a second season, then we'll go here, and then I'll move there, and then this thing will happen, and then with the character we can, and then to watch that just like fade out is kind of heartbreaking.
Of course.
But man, it's heartbreaking, but then you get to go do White Lotus. You get to do, you know what I mean? It's like, it just all, I've been incredibly lucky. So I don't spend a lot of time going like, why? Yeah.
Well, so where are you now? What's coming up?
I'm down in Atlanta. We've been here for quite a stretch. It's filming in COVID times is like a lot, you know what I mean? So it's just as schedules get crazy. But filming a show, a limited series for Peacock that's called A Friend of the Family. It's based off of the same story that's documented in the Netflix documentary Abducted in Plain Sight, and it's about Jan Broberg and her family living in Idaho in the 70s, and a friend of their family, Robert Birchtold, was a psychopathic pedophile who abducted her multiple times over the span of years. And so this show is written and produced by Nick Antosca, who did The Act and Candy, and Jan and her mother Marianne as well, and really tells their story. So I play Robert Birchtold. I play the friend of the family who took Jan, and Anna Paquin plays Marianne, her mother, and Colin Hanks as the father, and McKenna Grace plays like older Jan in her teen years, and this wonderful actor Hendrix Yancey plays Jan in her younger years. And so it'll come out October 6th on Peacock, and from what I've seen, it's great. And it's amazing to have Jan and Marianne like along for the ride, like really like championing this thing, as opposed to kind of us just taking someone's story and being like, thanks, yeah, it's been awesome. So we're in the home stretch now.
Well, I know you've done some mildly serious work in different, shows, and movies, but it's mainly been a lot of comedy. This feels like a real dramatic pivot for you.
It's funny, like there's a handful of any of the comedy is certainly more of like people have had eyes on it, and I've gotten like had a lot of opportunities along the way with like I'm Dying Up Here, another short-lived program, or movies like Diane or something like that are kind of either somewhere between drama with comedy in it, or just a straight drama. And yeah, this certainly is a departure from High Fidelity or the White Lotus, or something like that. But I think part of what maybe my skill set that sort of lends to that is that this guy Robert Birchtold was warm and fun and charming, and like that was his con, was to be those things, to build this trust, to then separate these people out, and to have his way with anyone he chose. So they're kind of taking that thing and like weaponizing it in a way. Yeah.
Well, it sounds very interesting. Looking forward to seeing you in that. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to speak with me today, and good luck with that show and at the Emmys.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate the time. Thank you.